Hello, everybody. My name is Brad Clark, and today we're going to be talking about a different topic. Today, we're going to be talking about a pretty well-regarded series called Danganronpa or Danganronpa, whatever the pronunciation is. Um, I'm actually joined by two guest stars. Please introduce yourself.
Everybody, what's going on? My name is DangerDoug, YouTube streamer for the most part, was a Twitch streamer, but avid Danganronpa fan. I've been playing the series for a long time now, and just wrapped up V3 on my YouTube channel and all the good stuff, and definitely excited to be here, and thanks for having me, Brad.
You're welcome. Who's next?
Hello, I'm Dafawfulizer. I started with first, I do like top 10s and stuff on my YouTube channel. I started with the first game back in at the tail end of 2017. Really enjoyed it. Quickly played the other stuff. And just really enjoyed it. I've talked about it quite a bit on my channel, kind of become known for it. Done a couple like full-on videos on it, and I'm excited to discuss stuff about it here.
Oh yeah, for sure. DangerDoug just mentioned how you got into the series. How did you get into the series? Dafawfulizer?
Yes.
That's your name, correct? Sorry.
Dafawfulizer. Yeah.
Right.
I started. I just because I'll tend to buy a bunch of games just from the Steam store or doing sales, thinking, oh, maybe I might like this, and I kind of stopped doing that because it's had me build up quite a backlog, but that's beside the point. One of them is just Danganronpa, I heard about. It was really well known. I didn't even play much visual novels at the time. I figured, I'll give it a shot. And first I wasn't too sure, but it's by the time I got to the first trial, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is something special.
Dafawfulizer, no, my story is pretty much like the same thing. I was just telling Brad this, is that, yeah, when you have that Steam sale, when you have a shit ton of games and stuff on sale, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go buy a bunch of these ones, because I think I bought the first game for maybe $3 or something like that. It was ridiculously low priced, and I'm like, wait a minute, okay. So again, you get into those types of things where you get in the recommended page, and the reviews being as overwhelmingly positive as they were back then, I'm pretty sure they still are. It ended up being one of 50 games that you might have purchased or something around that time, and it just kind of sits. But yeah, no, like you were saying too, it just really stands by this series so much. Really, all been such a pleasure actually getting to this. It's really cool for sure. So
yeah, and the interesting thing is people always say the Danganronpa fandom tends to be really tough. They're wrong. It's just I have not seen that side of the fandom. I really haven't. Everyone who I've met in it has been very positive.
I can mostly say the same. It's just more so just let's just say those in role plays and non-Danganronpa related role plays, and then a lot of the profile pictures, and it really turned me off until last year around my birthday.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I mean, unity, and I mean, for me, I've been around really characters, but also not crapping anybody's particular likes or dislikes about the series neither. It's been refreshing to say the least, at least for me.
Yeah.
Also, just a question that I think, because it's always the comparison that people make. What were you guys' experiences with Ace Attorney by the time you had got into Danganronpa?
I actually haven't played it, but I can definitely see the comparisons.
Yeah.
That's just me
personally.
For me,
I had played the first one, but it was the Wii port, so it wasn't that good. So I was kind of turned off of that game type, but I still gave Danganronpa a chance, and I really liked it. And it inspired me to give Ace Attorney a second chance, and that turned out well too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There you go.
So now we're gonna do, we're gonna start with the first game. I think it's personally my personal favorite because the setting, it has the claustrophobia setting. It has cameras everywhere, 1984, Big Brother's watching type vibe, and it just builds a lot of distrust, I guess you could say.
No, for sure. I mean, even just taking a look at the first game, I mean, that's usually the one that everybody starts out with. I mean, most of the time, and I mean, there are fans out there who might have started with 2 or V3 or something like that. I rarely hear anybody
The
who
people who
starts
started
Vulture
with
the
2, I
Fairgirls.
really do.
Right. Just because a lot of people would either start with 2 or 1, but the first game is the one that I started with as well in the series, and you're right. It gives you that sort of claustrophobic feeling, like you really have nowhere else to go. I mean, his first chapter, you only have the one floor and only so many rooms, And I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, sure, the other like floors do open, but you still have that sense of like you're closed into the space. So it has its own like appeal over there too, especially if you're a big Orville fan or something like that with 1984 and yeah, the Big Brother's watching type of mentality and like, okay, we could potentially live out our lives inside this pseudo closed in paradise where we're always fed, we always have whatever we need, but there's always that little something, that little prompt, that little Monokuma thing that comes up that gives us a reason to leave or want to leave that just drives one or two people crazy and then just something happens. But
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, like it's such a dismal, like depressing location, yet it's also weirdly bright and colorful. That's the other thing that you
Yeah.
kind of
right.
notice.
It
No, for
doesn't look
real.
like modern gritty movies. I'll give it that much.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
I think trials wise, I think the best trials, my personal favorite is probably the final trial. I know I'm one of those people, and probably the double mater. I'm not too sure. Mondo's is just, ugh, that one's sad.
That one's my favorite. That one is very much my favorite. I'd say second would probably be the Sakura one where everyone just has no clue what's going on and is constantly lying to protect themselves.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right.
For
No,
sure,
for
for
real.
sure.
It's one of those things where I think even for a lot of people who might have picked up the demo version of the first game or whatnot, so you got it up through like chapter 1. So the Leon thing and whatnot with 11037, it's like, okay, well this case is very easy to solve. It's pretty much like if you had a free demo version of the game, you get up to that point, you get to the end of chapter 1, it's like, oh, okay, kind of see how this game is all about. But Dafawfulizer, how you were saying, like with that second case and whatnot, it got so much more crazy complicated after that. And
I
all
was
the
able
crazy
to
stuff.
predict most of the twists in the second one, but I just didn't put together that Mondo was the killer. I thought it was Byakuya, but everything about
Yeah.
Chihiro being a dude and Byakuya messing with the crime scene, and let's be real, was anyone fooled by Genocide Jack? Like,
I mean, I partly was for a bit, but not. But after that, I was like, oh, I guessing that Toko Fukawa is probably not gonna be a serial killer, but
I think the only reason that case one was so easy is because the game was like wasn't originally meant to be released in the West, and it was only due to like so much fan enthusiasm that it did. I would say overall the first game probably has the weakest trials just because they're like so simple, but it definitely has some good ones.
yeah,
I think the place. How do we feel about the overarching story in the game? Because I feel that's where this one in particular really shines.
yeah. Narrative wise, I prefer the first game. The second game has more of a Matrix feeling, so I guess you feel like the characters are fine in a way. Oh, we'll get to
Right.
we'll get to that one.
And in
Yeah.
the first game, for me at least, I mean, as far as like the story aspect, I had not seen anything like it at the time in terms of any sort of visual novels and what kind of story this would put together and stuff. I mean, it's like one of those things where you take a group of people and force them into a killing game. It's it's pretty nuts and stuff like that, even just by itself. But what really drives it for me, and this is going to be a common theme as far as like me speaking to the entire series, is the characters. And again, the Genocide Jack, the whole thing about that in the second chapter, that just blew my mind. And to this day, she is still one of my favorite characters. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's just the entire first story just blew my mind, and it's so freaking crazy to even think about. But that captures your imagination going into the other ones, where you already know like the premise of a killing game, sure, but they kind of take it in their own different like feels and directions and whatnot, if you will.
Can we
Yeah.
talk
The other
about
thing.
Can we talk about the twist ending?
Hold on.
Right,
We'll get there in a second. I just wanted to say that I really liked. I think this game was the best at feeding you information. Like the little clues and like developments that happen are sort of perfectly paced. And there's also something I want to say in regards to the cast, but I think we'll circle back around to that once we talk about the ending.
For sure, like the little clues that you get from just like reading little text scripts and stuff from different like rooms or just your interactions with the characters. They feed you little bits of information, but it's not like you go into like some of JRPGs or even Skyrim where it's like you get a whole book. Here, we're just going to crap a whole bunch of knowledge on you and stuff, and you have to read through 50 pages of history behind this. It's like, no, they give you enough.
Yeah.
They give you
The
enough in
best
certain pockets of the game that you realize the story.
Yeah, the best moment, like I think in terms of this, is I think it was after the second trial, might have been after the first. It's like that scene with Monokuma and he's talking to someone who you don't see them. So it's like, okay, so you already know that there is a traitor, but you just don't know like what's going on. And you think that that's all the information you're gonna get, but then they ask about the 16th student, and then Monokuma just like shuts up, and it's like, ooh, something is really big about that. Anyway, let's get to what we were gonna say about the ending.
Oh yeah, when I first saw Makuru Ikosaka, aka Junko, the 16th student. Yeah, you know the meme.
Mukuro Ikusaba, the 16th student, lying hidden somewhere in this school. The one they call the ultimate despair. Watch out for her.
I was terrified. I was like, "What? No, he's dead. That's not possible." Type of thing.
Well,
Like,
see, I knew that her character Junko was going to play a lot more into the series, and it was one of those things too where like I just couldn't believe it when her character was killed. In that one pocket here and there towards the beginning of the game, and I'm like, wait a minute, no, there's got to be a lot more to her character. You don't just dress up a character like this to kill her off this early. Sometime she's going to come back. I have no idea how.
That she was gonna play a bigger part.
Right. She just seemed like she had a bigger part to play in that whole thing, and, when they
Interesting.
set up like this, I'm like,
She gave
that's
me like
great.
really filler character vibes when I first saw her. Sayaka was the death that caught me off guard.
oh, I liked Sayaka. Fight me.
Yeah.
A lot of people like Sayaka. She didn't deserve to die, like, that early in the game, but still,
Yeah.
like
Honestly,
Fair
I think
enough.
the main twist with the ending was probably the best like big twist in the series, because it's just like, no, that thing that you've been trying to do, that everyone's been trying to do the entire game, that was the exact thing that everyone agreed to avoid doing before this all happens. Like, just completely reverses everything.
oh, yeah. No, that's good writing. Like, that's a testament
Yeah.
to, like, good writing and stuff, like a
Yeah.
fully realized story where, yeah, you might be fighting against something, but you have to, like, go against it at the very end or something to make sure that you realize hope or something, but it's just nuts to even think about.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so how do we feel about the cast in the game overall? How do we feel about the characters?
I feel like cast-wise, this is probably. I'm not too sure about cast-wise. I think Danganronpa 3. Oh, we'll get to you. Is the weakest. Obviously, I think I want to put this like somewhere between
Wait,
like being a
V3 or the anime? What are you talking about?
the anime.
Oh, yeah, obviously that one.
I think this is like kind of like it's a good. I think there's like good characters in it, and I think there's bad characters in it. It's like I guess like a good like mixed bag. I guess you could say.
Yeah. I
Right.
think the thing that I liked about the game is that I felt more than the other two. It was a very good judge of who to kill and who to leave alive. Like, there's a few issues I have. Like, for instance, Hero should have died like chapter 3 at the latest. Like, and maybe
Oh,
they
yeah.
should have let Taka survive more. But like, other than that, I think they were a pretty good judge of it. Like, I think this game had probably the best batch of survivors.
Yeah. I
I
saw.
think so too.
I
So,
saw.
highlight favorites and least favorites in this one.
I'm actually gonna be very controversial. Like Makoto's probably one of my favorites.
Really?
Yeah, he's very popular in Japan. He's like, I believe, and there was a video that he's like number 2 on the popularity poll, behind Byakuya Togami.
Behind Byakuya, really? Oh, well, the first game cast, you mean?
Out of the first game cast, the lowest is Hifumi for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I can see
Really
that.
mind
And then-
Hifumi. Yeah.
I guess my least favorite. This is gonna be an even more controversial opinion. I think Bakuru Ikosapaka is really, really overrated. Like I do get why people should have her fans. It's just she doesn't really do anything. Like of note, besides of course being the imposter Junko
Wait.
and
About that. There is some
and there's
clever
stuff in D3, the Danganronpa
Yeah.
anime.
And even then,
Right.
she kind of just like Junko's sidekick. Although there is some clever subtext with her in the game, like both from like her free time events and from you can actually tell from the pictures that were used as evidence in the final trial, the whole blackmail ones, that there's a lot of subtext there that, oh no, she was like just about to be broken out of Junko's grip. If Junko had held off her plan by only like a month or two, Mukuro probably would have turned on her.
Maybe.
Possibly.
There's I don't know if you guys know, there's like a weird, I guess like in the free time events, there's like a weird, like Bakura has like a weird, like, NSFW warning, this could be a little bit gross. She has like a weird crush on Junko and likes Makoto Naegi.
Ah,
Yeah,
interesting.
but like the other thing is, when you look at all the pictures, like she is looking at Makoto in every single one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. Whenever you see those ones, it's kind of set up that way to just kind of, kind of drop that hint, if you will, so to speak.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
so who
for
wants
sure.
to go next, character wise?
I think as far as like favorites are concerned, I really like a lot of the ladies in this one, but particularly Kyoko Kirigiri and Celestia are like two of my favorite ladies, to be sure. I mean, I know Junko's my waifu, like don't get me wrong, but still. Um, Celestia was my first ever waifu just because I'm a sucker for gothic lolly fashion and all the good stuff. But I just like the fact that between her and Taka, who was one of my favorite guys, that there was that sort of like prism type of thing where you have like a guy who was essentially like the moral compass, like do no wrong, he can never tell a lie, always be on time for everything. Then you have the other side of the spectrum, you have Celestia, who's like, oh, well, I mean, you can lie, you can cheat, you can do all these other things. Gambling is okay. You know, it's like you have that kind of dynamic between the characters and their designs and stuff. And it's like it was something that the contrast between the two of them really struck me as something that was really really cool for the series. And
I think dynamic wise, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
as far as like Kyoko Kirigiri goes, I mean, it is one of those things where I didn't really know what to make of her. Same with like Maki with V3. It's just like, okay, she's very mysterious. You don't really know what's going on with her. I think that, you know, she's got something else going on, but she's probably like a force for good, but she just doesn't like want to enact that just yet or wants to play it carefully of some kind. But you also think about like what you would do in this type of situation if you were thrown into a batch of students and just kind of forced to like kill each other and stuff like that. But I mean, I would play it careful. I would probably be very quiet in comparison to the others, but still, it's pretty damn crazy actually.
For sure. What's your your top tier character and your bomb tier character, Defeeblizer?
Fine, you're never gonna get my name right. Well, for starters, Monokuma is legit my favorite, one of my favorite villains in all of fiction. He's just like so entertaining, but also has like this, you know, sinister edge to him. But in terms of killing game participants, Toko's my favorite character in the series. Like,
There you go. There you go.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
no, because I find both sides of her, like Genocide Jill, self-explanatory, absolutely hilarious, but I find like her just regular personality funny too. And in Ultra Despair Girls, I also found her kind of relatable, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, no, and Kyoko was good too, but Toko was just a joy the whole way through. Maybe it took a bit to get to like her in chapter 1, but I really liked her as a character.
She
least
was
favorite,
a wild card, dude. She was a total wild card. You had no idea what the hell was going to happen, but that's why I loved her character throughout the first game. I'm like, where's this woman going? You have no idea if she's going to whip out this whole crazy personality and stuff that just like whips out scissors and like threatens to kill people and stuff, but do it like with this happy, insane type of like, you know, persona and stuff, but then switch up to this, you know, very timid, you know, but kind of in a way twisted and perverted in her own right, Toko, who's just kind of like doing her own thing and stuff. It's just like, okay, this even her regular personality is something you can sink your teeth into and just enjoy too. But it's like,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
perfect. I wish I was able to sum it up as eloquently. Least favorite hero. He is just like he wasn't even
oh
that
god,
funny to begin with. Like, because the thing is, he kind of served an interesting purpose overall, sort of the perspective of just like the guy who's just can't believe this, he's in denial. But like after that, like his only character trait was like going, oh, whenever something happens. Like he was
dude,
just so unfunny, and it's like, how did he become a survivor? Literally, my favorite moment from him in this series is when he's being shot at by a helicopter in the anime. It is legit the funniest thing
dude.
that he has been involved with.
If his character brings any value to the series, it's the hope that if one of us was just so ridiculously plain and ordinary that if we were thrown into this crazy scenario that one of us could skate by, literally do hardly anything except, yeah, that's kind of interesting. Oh yeah, huh. 30% right half the time, or just something like that. He skated by pretty much the
Yeah.
entirety of the game and stuff, and he was sus in a couple of different parts, sure, but ultimately didn't really lead to anything. So I'm like, okay. But yeah, no, favorite moments. Yeah, him getting shot at by a helicopter in the anime and stuff like that. But he handled himself pretty well, I would think.
Yeah, for sure. He's like, I think he's like mid-tier popularity in terms of Japan. I think if I'm right, the video is, if the trace is correct,
Where's
the
Toko
video,
on the list?
Toko
Sh-
and
She's
Genocide
gotta be
Jack are
near the
six.
top.
No, they're like near the bottom. They're like 16th and
Really?
15th place.
What?
A lot of the fandom in Japan, if I remember correctly, is mostly females than is male to female ratio, like in the West. And they
Oh.
placed Mondo, I think, no, not Mondo, Hero in like an 8th place, something like that.
Well, I do
God.
know that fortune telling is also a bigger part of their society than it is compared to us. I mean, when you take a look at the Western audience over here in like the United States or even like in the UK or something, a character like Genocide Jack Toko would do a whole lot better over here just because it's she just would do well over here just because we do like that kind of wild card kind of character or something. But
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
No.
for sure, for sure. Let's get on to Danganronpa 2. This is considered I think this is like the best game, like not just like visually, I think storytelling wise and case wise, this is probably one of the
Personally,
better
my
games.
favorite.
yeah, same. I mean, uh, most of the fandom would probably tell you that number two is like the overall favorite if you were to take like the three main games and just like
I don't
compare
think
all
there's
three of them.
that strong of a consensus, but I think overall it probably is too.
Yeah, for sure, for
Right.
sure.
And if I were to just take like what I really, really do enjoy about this game is the characters. The characters in D2 were just absolutely a pleasure to get to know. I mean, a lot of them had their own personalities and across the spectrum, sure, but they had perfected whatever formula they were using for the first game and gave us so many like much better characters. Nagito is probably one of my favorite characters in video gaming of all time. Same with Chiaki, she's waifu.
Oh
I
yeah.
love her. Um,
Ibuki, Gundam.
yes, Gundam, Ibuki, and incredible voice actors and
Peko
actresses
Yama.
across the yes, oh my god. You could rattle
Did,
off like all the characters and you find like anybody that you really can find an attachment to and stuff, but it's just it's just crazy. Even like that simp Kazuichi with Sonya and stuff like that. Like that's cool. I love seeing that.
Yeah.
Like that kind of dynamic and stuff and Mikan and the whole bit and stuff. But yeah, the characters are what really got me and I just think as a protagonist, Hajime he just did it for me
oh
over
yeah.
Big Mac. Although I love Big Mac, don't get me wrong. I really do. Hajime was just he was a better protagonist in my opinion.
I
It's
think
just
so
me.
too. Like I did love he's more flawed than Makoto Naegi.
Right.
Makoto,
Whereas
like,
uh,
Makoto's a very passive protagonist. One aside from like in the final chapter, like when you think about it, like it's mostly Kyoko who's driving the story. Like the entire thing's like a chess match between her and Junko for like most of it, and Makoto helps out every now and again.
Right.
Yeah, for sure,
While
for sure.
here, it feels a bit more equal.
Right.
In
It
terms
seems
of
like
contributions.
like Hajime is like he's got his own moral compass and he's following it, and he's trying to do like the right thing by his own and stuff, and in a way he's working with the rest of his classmates, sure, and Nagito and Chiaki are kind of pushing him towards it, but ultimately he's really the one who's kind of driving like a lot of the stuff as to what they're doing, trying to be a force for good and whatnot, and trying to solve this. But yeah, no,
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
So what do we think about the setting here? Because honestly, I can't decide which setting I like more, this or the original. The original's like we already described, but that one's awesome. Here, it's like awesome for the exact opposite reason. Because it's first off, you got a ton of variety. Like every like location like plays a huge role in like the atmosphere of the murder, but also like it's just it's just such a nice, relaxing feel, which weirdly works because it makes it hit just that much harder whenever someone drops dead.
Oh yeah, for sure,
Right.
for sure. I think Jabberwock Island's a real place. It's near. I think I remember right. If I saw on a map that it's like nearby the British Virgin Islands, and I think nearby the Caribbean area. So it's definitely like kind of shocking. Like it's like a shockingly good environment, if that makes sense.
It's one of those things where you take like almost pretty much the exact opposite the setting that the first game has. The first game, you're closed in. You're inside a building with only so many rooms and so many floors. Out here, there's open space. It's a paradise. It's a beach. There's a whole bunch of stuff. There's a freaking hotel with a pool. Yeah, on an island, there's a hotel with a pool and all sorts of games, arcades, the whole bit and stuff. There's everything that you ever could have ever wanted and need. At the same time, you have no idea what's going on in the real world, and you're all essentially trapped on an island. I mean, yeah, sure, you can like just speak to the merits of the first game, which is amazing, by the way. Love that setting. But they turned it all on its head for this one and gave you a new state of panic and saying, okay, yeah, we might be trapped here in paradise, but you cannot go anywhere other than just staying over here. But if you were trapped in paradise and you had people killing you or something like that, that's a whole nother story here and there as well.
Yeah.
But
Looks
Yeah.
like someone's a paradise killer then. It's reference to a recent game called Paradise Killer.
To edit that in somehow.
Yeah.
for sure, dude.
Trials wise, I think some of them I think could have been really short. I think the second trial could have like been very very short.
Honestly, I think this game is the strongest overall when it comes to the trials because yes, the second trial is a huge mixed bag because on one hand you got like the part going over the arcade game and that like big finale with Peko, but like the stuff in between that kind of sucked. And yes, third trial's most hated in the series for a goddamn reason, but you've also got the Funhouse, you also got Nagito's Gambit, and you've also got the best opening case in the series.
Oh yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
That opening case was absolutely amazing. But yeah, third trial, I'm like, oh my god. For number one, you're gonna kill one of my waifus like in the entirety of the series. Thank you, Ibuki. Oh my god, damn it. Why did she have to die? I have no goddamn idea.
Like the death that I'm like the most pissed about out of all of them. Hiyoko dying also
Right.
kind of sucked too, because it was like she was clearly going to go through an arc, but she just didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
My fans have like pointed out the perfect solution for this. Just kill Sonya. She's easily the best person to get rid of in that situation in terms of how it would affect the story.
Oh yeah. There's also was a legend, or well, I call it a legend rumor of Hiyoko being one of the survivors, but that's been like kind of debunked. It was only appeared on one Korean website at a very obscure
Really? Okay,
one.
yeah. The story I heard was that she was originally going to be a survivor, and Fuyuhiko was going to die, but they're like, wait, that would kind of just eliminate the point of everything we just did. So
Yeah.
It's so crazy how Hyoko's death in the third trial is just kind of glossed over or something like that. It's just so
we know the
crazy
murder
how
weapon.
Right. It's just like we hardly talk about her during the trial and stuff. I mean, yeah, they talk about Ibuki for sure. Uh, but it's like you just kind of gloss over her death, and she didn't really matter as much in comparison to the rest of the cast. I mean, it's not necessarily good to say that necessarily, but it's one of those things where they just really only touched upon her character, maybe a few different things here and there for a couple of lines, and that's about it. But yeah.
Like, she's kind of one of the more hated characters in this game, but I honestly like Hiyoko.
I don't mind her personally.
Yeah, I mean,
I
she
wasn't
wasn't
the-
one of my favorites, but I did enjoy her character. What was I gonna? Yeah, so oh, and of course we had despair disease, like such a great motive, guys. Really, have Monokuma just choose who dies next.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the
And it's like
motives
all the
in
other motives were really
D1
good, but this one's just like in this game were really good at just like this one. Ugh. So let's go over sort of overall story and then favorite and least favorite characters for this one. And then we
You
can
know
move
what we
on.
forgot? We forgot the executions. I think the first game, Leon's, is my personal favorite. Least favorite's the alternate universe Kyoko. Ugh, that ending. Sorry.
That one's so like visceral. I think my least favorite of the bunch in that game is probably probably Mondo's. There's just not a lot to it. My favorite in the series actually is the Ultimate Punishment.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. What's your favorite execution, Danger Doug?
Yeah, the ultimate punishment was just absolutely wonderful. It was just deliciously evil is terrible, and I would say that my least favorite is probably the Mondo one, just because Leon's was epic. I'm like, okay, yeah, getting hit by like millions of these baseballs and stuff like that. I mean, it sounds sadistic to say like, here's my favorite execution way to kill somebody, but that one was a whole lot better, and they took a step down, I think, with doing the Mondo butter type of thing. I'm like, okay, it's kind of goofy or something like that, I suppose, but
like, I guess that's disturbing, but it's like, what the hell does that even mean?
Yeah,
it seemed a little more cartoony. Not that the first execution wasn't cartoony. I mean, it was, but at the same time, like you could see that plausibly being a thing or something where it's like, oh, okay, it's Mondo butter now. Oh, okay, huh?
yeah.
So anyway, back to
D2.
I think one thing that was really nice about the story is like it was less focused on a singular threat because you obviously got Monokuma doing his thing and the mystery of like what this clock is, but you also got like, wait, why is Byakuya here? Why did Hope's Peak have such a good reputation after everything that happened? Whose side is Monami really on? Because it's like she's with someone who is the traitor that you're trying to figure out. And then, of course, there's Nagito, who's unpredictable as all hell. Like,
oh yeah, no, easily one of my favorite characters in all the games, but also in all of gaming. Just because of how much of a wild card the guy really is and stuff. I mean, they tie him up for being like a troublemaker and stuff like that, and they're like, no, we can't have this. But it like turns out that he was trying to help them like all the time or something like that. And even after they tie him up, he still tries to help them out after the fact and stuff, which to me is just so freaking crazy. But
yeah, and I mean, Trial 5 is, probably the best in the series, and it all revolves around his complete insanity. And in terms of like the plot twist in this game, like I think it was definitely weaker. The one thing that I did like though is that in the first game, I don't think they handled Junko that well. Like it was just kind of like really I don't really buy that this person was able to just like pull all this off. She just seems too scatterbrained. But like in the second game, like she's still funny, but you see like just how much of this like sadistic, strategic genius she is, just setting up all these like impossible dilemmas. It's like, okay, you know what? I can buy that this girl brought the whole world into an apocalypse. This makes sense.
But not
she's
the AI.
She's had a lot more time
it
to
was
be
AI,
realized
yeah.
by the second game, just because like, you got a little bit of her personality in the first chapter, which was really Mukuro, as we found out.
Yeah.
But then she just comes out in the final chapter and, "Oh, okay, alright, this is what was going on. This is what I've been up to all this time. I'm crazy. Okay, bye." It's like, okay. But by the second game, you're able to realize a little bit more so of her character because you've had more time to kinda sit and think about it. But when they actually do present her again in the second game, they're able to like show a little bit more to her character being very analytical, calculating, very cold, but also crazy and insane too, even with the AI type of thing that's all going on. But
Yeah. That definitely feeds into the Danganronpa Zero novel. Definitely, like, she plays as a character, I think Ryoko, and she kills her quote unquote boyfriend, and is like very calculating. Now she has the ability to do selective amnesia.
right, which makes it even worse because it's like, okay, I mean, if you kill your boyfriend or something like that, and then remember certain parts or just forget the whole thing entirely, it's pretty crazy to even think about with how she's able to do all that. But still,
Yeah. Danganronpa Zero is the one piece of official Danganronpa content that I have not seen, so I can't really comment
same,
on it.
Yeah.
same. It's the one piece I haven't seen just yet.
It's a manga. It's a fun little side story, but yeah, I think
A fun little side story. Best way to describe something with Junko.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
the plot twist, I just gave it away. I'm sorry. But it's
No.
kind of the spoiler, and it's kind of like a non-spoiler anyway. It takes place during the Danganronpa 3 anime, I think between the parade and that scene in D3. Not my favorite character, as we'll talk about Danganronpa 2's our favorite characters and least favorite ones.
And Danganronpa 2. Oh my god, easily from the guys, it's got to be Nagito. Hajime is another close second for me just because he's awesome. And from the girls, love Chiaki, love Ibuki, love Mikan. Um, those three are my waifus. I swear to God, dude, they're so freaking amazing. Especially Chiaki. I didn't really know what to make of her like in the beginning, but she's like that shy girl that you just kind of meet at school or something like that. But like throughout the semester, you like get to know her or something like that, and she just kind of grows on you or something like that. And I'm just like, yeah, yeah, she's best girl, like for sure, like without a doubt.
Oh yeah. Who's your least favorite character, Danger Doug?
Least favorite character. I mean, I know Hyoko wasn't exactly my favorite. Just because I mean, I kind of saw her as like a little brat type of thing, but like my whole thing about the second game is that I really wish that she had a more complete arc. 'Cause I think you could have done a whole lot more with her character, but tragically she was cut short and whatnot in comparison to the rest of the cast and whatnot. From the guys, um, kind of hard to pick. I would
Is it
say
Nekomaru?
probably. No, it's not Nekomaru, just because I like a good shit every once in a while. Well, Terror was like a better version of Heat from Heat from the first game, in my opinion. He was just cool. He had like this whole thing about him and stuff. I'd say maybe like a tie between Kazuichi and Terror for me is like my favorite guys, but Gundam's another favorite dude for sure. That guy.
yeah.
Oh yeah, Terror. Ugh. He's my least favorite character. Like
He's mine too, actually.
What?
But let's save it for when we get to that. So, do you want to go next or should I?
I guess you can go in that case.
Okay. Favorite, you're not going to hear much different. I mean, Nagito, just because of how, like, kind of unsettling, but just so unpredictable he was, love Chiaki too. Ibuki, only downside is she doesn't last that long. And Gundam, like, I wasn't entirely sure. Like, when I first saw Gundam, like, I thought, oh god, this guy is going to be so cringe, but he just wound up being really funny. And just that, like, ending right before he gets executed, oh man, that really did it for me. Least favorite, like I said, Teru. Here's the thing. I sometimes actually really enjoy pervert characters. I think under the right circumstances, they can be pretty funny. Teru wasn't. He felt downright predatory. Like, Hifumi didn't, Mew didn't. Teru, like, is a borderline rapist. Like,
He's one of those guys where I think they tried to like They took Hifumi and they like turned him up in some of the wrong directions, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
he's
and
like
like
that
I know he
very
had, and
awkward
the thing
friend.
is, and like he does have that whole backstory thing with his mom, and that is somewhat of a redeeming factor. So I'd say out of my least favorite characters in each game, he's probably the least bad, especially because they got rid of him pretty damn fast. But yeah, I can't
Right.
say he was a fan. I was a fan of him either. Anyway,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think my obviously our favorite is Chiaki. Oh, we'll get to you, Danganronpa 3. That scene is just heartbreaking. I think there was a lot of heartbreaking executions in this Danganronpa game besides V3.
That's why I love it. That's why I loved like chapter 5 in this game. I mean, not to be sadistic or anything, but I do like the fact that when you have these characters, even the heartbreak and whatnot, it's like it gets you so attached to the characters, and to see like a lot of this go down, it's like you get in your head that none of these people deserved any of this
Oh, yeah, for sure.
happen to them.
I think my favorite is obviously Chiaki for girls. Chiaki and Peko Yama. She grew on to me. Both of them did.
interesting.
Fa- fa-
The
fa-
fact seemed to be one of the more fan-hated ones, at least from my circles.
For me, she's like popular, but not really. I already know there's a Peko and Fuyuhiko shipper. I guess like favorite is of course Nagito Komaeda and Hajime Hinata. My least favorite is Izuru Kamakura, and I will explain why in a bit. Um and then my other least favorites are of
Explain
course
why now, because we kind of already talked about the ending.
Oh, I made it 0 because of that one scene in D3.
Okay, yeah. Well, in that case, we'll get to it when we get to that.
Oh yeah. And then my least favorite girl is Hiyoko and Mahiru. Like I know why Mahiru says if you're a guy then you could be able to do this, but God, it's cringe. It's not fun.
Yeah,
Right. I mean,
I mean-
Mahiru, I think girls would probably like her character a lot more so than guys do, but
I wasn't the
yeah,
biggest fan of Mahiru either, if I'm being honest. But I honestly think if she lasted longer, she might have grown on me. But she didn't.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I think that's it for D2. Okay. Ultra
you
Despair
didn't-
Girls.
We didn't cover executions yet.
Oh, executions. Most of the heartbreaking ones. Mikon's. I heard a fan explanation for this one, is that the needle actually injected. Actually, she was actually injected with the needle, and she's just tripping balls as she dies from the poison.
yeah, that was god awful. I was like, why would you do that to her? Oh my god. But no, like her execution, even through the story, even for me, because I mean, how in the hell could somebody who's so timid, somebody who's so good natured, somebody who seems to be like everybody's friend? I mean, she is a klutz, sure. How could she be so evil? You could tell that there was something else going on with the rest of the cast, which we found out that they were ultimate despairs after the fact, but like even that just turned everything on its head like towards the end of the entire series, and I'm like, oh wow. How had that happen? But again, it goes into the whole like story about how or why like everything that happened to these people did. As far as like executions go, easily the saddest one is for me is like chapter 5 and stuff. I mean, as soon as you get with Jackie and how Nagito died and everything, it's like easily like the saddest one to me. And I mean, even like Terotero's in a way was kind of sad to a point, but like I don't know. It's hard to put out like a least favorite one in this one for me. I'd say even Pekko's one might be my least.
I think there's a pretty easy candidate for least favorite that you guys are forgetting.
Which one?
AI Junko's execution.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
She gets the icon of sin treatment, like the shaft. It's not even that impressive.
Yeah. Like Usami just shows up, like hits her with the magic stick, and it's like, boom, you're dead. And it's like maybe if we played the bonus mode, that would have some sort of impact, but no. My favorite of the executions, honestly, I'm surprised none of you brought this one up. It's almost like you strategically avoided mentioning it. Pekko's. Like,
Oh, I
'Cause
was
it's
about
both
to get to
really-
that one.
Yeah, it's both really flashy, and it's probably okay, maybe not the most cruel in the series. We'll get to that one later. Well, actually, one of them. But like it's so messed up because literally, if there was no interference, she could have survived. But it's no. Monokuma freaking knew that Fuyuhiko would try to save her, and that would be the mechanism that got her killed.
Oh yeah.
Right. This is just a whole lot of terrible right there with all of it. And I mean, it even seems like he could have kind of planned it that way here and there as to how like he already knew that they felt about each other or something, and just kind of like the whole thing was just a setup and stuff.
Oh
Gundam's
yeah.
execution, Jesus Christ.
That one
Terrible.
felt more bittersweet than like tragic, because like he like kind of just feels like he's at peace. He accepts his death. He did everything he could.
Right.
Like it's obviously sad, but it's not, but not in the same way as something like Chiaki's. One more thing
Right.
that I just wanted to point out about this game is I sort of like the logic that it like went, the train of logic that it would follow it sometimes, like how the cast figures out pretty quickly, okay, whatever the Monokuma file doesn't tell us is the most important thing, or how Monokuma will always want to do something that Monami's just like, oh, no, you can't violate the rules. See right here. And this is the only game in the series where Monokuma hasn't broken the rules, which I thought was kind of interesting and I liked. And
Oh,
it makes
yeah,
sense
for
why.
sure.
There's a reason for it, but still pretty cool.
Oh yeah. I guess like execution wise, I wouldn't count Chiaki's mainly because she's an AI. If we don't see any blood, I guess like my other favorite is probably Terra Terrors. It's visually kind of funny and cool,
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
and he hates junk food, so it's very despair-inducing.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, okay, so Ultra Despair Girls. This is the controversial one. Some people
Yeah.
hate it. Some people like it. I thought the Warriors of Hope were an interesting idea. My least favorite, off the bat, I hate Monica. I despise Monica. Everything
You're
about her.
supposed to. You're supposed to. She's the she's the bad guy of the series and whatnot. And for me, I literally hate her freaking guts. She'd be like the most annoying person to ever get to know and stuff. Like I would stay away from her and keep her away with a 10-foot pole. Whatever you gotta do, I'll be on the other side of the planet to get away from somebody like Monica. But the thing is that you're supposed to hate her. You're supposed to not like her character at all. She's supposed to act as that villain character. And I'm like, okay,
Honestly,
very cool
I
with that.
think. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Because if you have a lot of hatred for a villain, they set it up that way to where it's like it's really good or you love to hate her type of situation and stuff. She's supposed to fill that role. But as far as like the characters are concerned, I didn't have too much of a problem with them. I did think that the kids kind of fell like within their own like tropes and stuff like that from the normal like anime cast that you might be like used to for all the kids and stuff. Like you have fiery protagonist Masaru, you have cold calculating Nagisa, you have the weird, albeit like maybe just shy Jataru, Kotoko's the girl, Monika's the other wild card of the group or something like that. But I just like the fact
Okay,
that
so while we're
Kamar
talking
and
about Warriors of Hope, we have to go ahead. What were you gonna say?
what?
I just love the fact that they had actually expanded on Toko's character in
Yeah.
this particular one. I mean, we'll
No.
get to her for sure because you probably talk about that for like a half an hour or something. But yeah, like for real, I'm so glad they actually expand on Toko's character in this series.
For sure, I
Yeah,
do love that.
it was yeah, no, on the topic of the Warriors of Hope though, like how do we feel about some of the content in this game? Like things like Kotoko's minigame, it's just like this feels illegal. It really
I mean, I feel
Like,
bad. Like her backstory, I feel bad for her because there are child actors that are very much in that situation.
yeah. But it's like
If
there's just that,
anything,
but it's like that friggin' turns into a borderline hentai game, and then immediately after there's the friggin' boss fight where you like cut all her fucking clothes off, and it's just like, Jesus Christ, what are you guys doing?
Well, we had to actually have people. I mean, because my moderator, she essentially told me, okay, Doug, I gotta have you probably issue a couple of warnings on your stream just to like let people know that there is going to be some scenes where, and again, this also goes into the whole story where they were willing to kind of push the boundaries with this game.
Oh, this is
Even
easily the most disturbing in the series.
it's so disturbing because and again, stuff like this comes up in life. Is it pretty? Hell no. It's terrible. It's tragic. At the same time, it does like highlight a harsh reality that could be out there, and it's like, yeah, this does happen. Like this does happen to girls, child actors, the whole bit and stuff. To see it in your game and have it be put into like a mini game here and there with all the hands and kind of clothes type of
Fan
bit and stuff, and like,
service.
okay, yeah, hand service, if you will, and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
but for me, I'm just like, did it really need to push it that far? Because even if you wanted to put this kind of subject matter into a game, you probably could have like implied a couple of things versus just kind of put it all out there in front of you. Do they push it too far? It's debatable, but I don't know.
Yeah, no,
It was
I
really
agree
unsettling.
with you.
I agree.
I agree with you. Like, it definitely serves the story, but I'm just kind of left saying, did you have to go that far? And it's
Right.
interesting. And it's kind of something I find myself thinking about interesting because I never like finished the game, but I have a friend who's a big fan of the Lisa games, and like, so and from what I understand, like that, like obviously that kind of thing is a huge theme in those games, but there's not much that's really shown on screen.
Oh yeah,
Right,
for
but
sure,
some
for
of that
sure.
stuff is implied trauma, or you might like talk to a character after the fact and see how psychologically damaged they are from the incident. And we got that from Kotoko's character for sure, but we had to see a bunch of it here and there put out in front of us and stuff, which one could argue is good or bad, but it
Yeah.
was
I
a
will
bit
say
much
this
in some
though,
cases.
like I was playing this game in my college dorm, and then the mini game popped up legit when like someone had walked in to see my roommate, and I just had to close out the game immediately. I'm like,
Nope,
no,
yep.
I cannot let them see this. Holy
Close
shit,
your
what are they
laptop.
gonna think I'm playing?
Yeah,
You know, that's
no.
actually like before I played the game, like I had just seen a bunch of FBI open up memes.
FBI, open up!
Oh yeah.
Well, that's like the perfect situation for that to occur, because yeah, and, like you can't be like in the hallway of your like, or in the libraries or something in the college and whatnot, and you can't be just out in like let's say like a coffee shop with your laptop playing this game, and like some customers walk in, see you playing this thing. It's like, no, 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 this is not one of those ones that you have with that. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I had like sort of some fans arguing in my Discord server. Like someone's like, "Oh well, wouldn't you also have trouble explaining some of the stuff in like V3 with like some of the fan services stuff?" And what I'm just like, no, 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 I can explain this stuff in V3. That's run of the mill fan service. This felt kind of illegal. But yeah, moving on. I think we've said enough on this topic. What else is there to say?
There was an interesting concept where basically it was supposed to be kind of like God of War, where you take on the remnants of despair and like eliminate them.
Right.
That idea is interesting. I think that would be cool for a sequel to explain how D2 even occurred, because we see
Oh yeah.
at the end of Ultra Despair Girls, Yuzuru Kamakura literally takes her brain, Junko's brain, and is implied that he plugs into the New World program.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how well? I mean, it's said that that's what he did. I wouldn't quite call it implied. I think this game's story was actually, before we do that, what about the gameplay in this game? Because the others, there's not much to talk about gameplay wise. Here, it's like a third-person shooter.
Right. I
It
mean,
gives me
the other
Devil May
ones.
Cry vibes a little. Just a little.
Yeah.
I found the gameplay very like it wasn't outright terrible, but it felt like kind of a chore at times.
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, because you've played other shooters before. I mean, it in and of itself, Ultra Despair Girls is a shooter game. But when you compare it to like other shooter games, it's not going to be nearly as good nor as fun here and there, to be sure. The other games were pretty much visual novel click through games where
Yeah.
you have a story, you click through it, you make your choices, and they kind of affect the story, but you're ultimately leading to one end where you're essentially kind of reading along with the story. This one you have to walk around, and even though it's kind of a linear path here and there at times, um, they when you compare it to other shooters, it's not gonna be nearly as good nor as realized here and there, but for me, I tried to pay attention more so to the story, but, as a game with the gameplay itself, it was kind of lacking, I would think, but I
Yeah.
still enjoyed playing it. I mean, don't get me wrong,
Oh yeah.
but
That's
And-
probably how I would say it. I enjoyed myself, but it was nothing special.
Oh, yeah. And Kamaru, she's an interesting protagonist. I thought there was there's interesting ideas where Leon's cousin was supposed to be the main protagonist, and she has a bunch of whack stuff too. And I think Toko wasn't even like imagined until much later into development, if I remember correct.
Well, I'm
I
glad they
love
went in the direction they did because Komaru and Toko's friendship is one of the main things that makes this game for me. Like it really does feel real, and it develops throughout the whole game. It's really nice. Really fleshes Toko out. It is honestly kind of inspiring, like seeing her how much she comes out of her shell and starts caring for Komaru as the game goes on.
Oh yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
they're almost like polar opposites. I mean, Kamaru's a lot more measured and stuff, and she's kind of like Big Mac in the sense, but I actually like her as a character a little bit more so than Big Mac. Sorry, Big Mac.
Yeah.
But with Toko, she's such like a polar opposite to Komaru, to where it's like you get like this insane person who's like, "Oh, well, I'm not gonna shower because, reasons and stuff. What if, my man Byakuya, yeah, she's constantly, like, fidgeting, she's constantly, like, she's a bundle of nervous energy that's just, ready to explode into genocidal mania, whereas Kamaru
Tendencies.
is just, like, this measured kind of person who's, kind of the moral compass of the pair, but, you wouldn't get the best brought out both of these characters if they were too similar. The fact that
Yeah,
they
no,
are
I think it
different.
works. My personal favorite moment, like aside from like some of the more dramatic stuff, my personal favorite is like one of those little side conversations they have is one where like Kamaru's like, "Oh no, my family was pretty weird. Like my dad wouldn't shave on Tuesdays, and he would like Makoto would do this, and then Toko's like." Literally, that is the most normal family I have ever heard in my life.
No, it's those side conversations that they have that make the story. And
Yeah,
Defawfulizer, like to your point, even going back to like the first game, the Danganronpa series is a way of like spoon feeding you little pockets of story, like not all at once, but they tell a realized story as they go through even like these side conversations with these characters about what their lives were like or what they are like, and where it's kind of going from there and stuff. But it's just so brilliant to see like that kind of dynamic between the two of them, and I really don't think they could have brought out the best of each other if they weren't so different from each other. That makes sense.
Yeah,
no.
for sure.
I think
We've exhausted Ultra Despair Girls. Now,
no.
we'll
There's one
get-
more thing I want to talk about.
Okay, thank you.
And this is one you guys are gonna disagree with me on, but I really liked Monica as a villain. Like, I honestly liked her more than Junko. Like, she is just legit one of the most unsettling characters I've come across in a video game. Like, I put her at number 3 on my most disturbing video game characters list. But even the characters ranked above her, like she makes me uncomfortable in ways they could only dream of. And like her voice is probably the most disturbing voice acting I have ever heard. It is just
Oh, dude, you're not gonna get disagreement out of me for that one,
Yeah.
just because she is designed specifically as the villain you have to get to hate in this one, because it's one of those things where she has the voice. It's so unsettling. You are like, I have to defeat this, but at the same time, not only do you get that feeling like I have to defeat this, you're just outright like, just it's one of those things where so disgusted. At the same time, you have no idea like what to make of her because she's so unsettling, so unhinged, so insane. She's even willing to go like sacrifice Nagisa, who like really likes her for whatever reason he does. And she's willing to play that kind of card here and there to get whatever she wants and stuff, which is crazy ultimate despair and stuff, which is mind blowing to me. But you're supposed to hate her, and she is that unsettling villain that you're not supposed to like. But still,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I do hate
So-
it too.
So
Okay.
are we going to V3 next or the anime next?
The anime. Ugh.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
God, please no, no.
So hold on. Which arc do we want to do first? Because we're going to have to split this up if we want to do this in a coherent way.
Yeah.
The way I was told to watch is you first watch the first episode of the Future arc, then you watch the entirety of the Despair arc, minus the Hope arc. Then you watch the entire Future arc, then you see the Hope arc. Let's start off with
It's just like you
Despair
keep
arc.
going back and forth.
Despair arc.
Let's start with Despair arc because that one takes place first.
Oh yeah, that one is funny, but not in a good way, I guess. Now looking back,
the first couple episodes, I'll still rewatch those, just because the one scene where they take aphrodisiacs still cracks me the hell up every
Oh, yeah.
single time when they Terra mixes in the aphrodisiacs and is cooking, and everybody gets freaking horny and stuff. I'm
He
like,
wasn't the one who
okay,
mixed it in. It was Hyoko who did it. Remember?
no,
yeah.
Hyoko did it. Hyoko did it.
That
whatever
was
he
funny.
Sorry, no, you're right. But I'll still watch it for that scene just because it's so hilarious, and I'm like, oh my god, you gotta be kidding me. But leading up to the whole thing with creating the ultimate despairs and Junko taking over, it all, it's just like Star Wars 9. All of it just sort of like happened all at once in a very short period of time. And you mean to tell me that this powder keg was lit for this long and stuff, and it just took Junko to blow it up or something?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Honestly, here's what biggest thing that I think they could have done to fix the Despair arc. Have Junko be there from episode 1. You know, she shows up in like episode 7. This arc is supposed to be about how she destroyed the whole fucking world. She shouldn't have less than half.
Oh yeah.
And like there was some other important shit, like for instance, how Hajime like decided to become Kamakura. Like I thought that was handled well. I guess the character of I'm not even gonna say that they did Madorai well, but yeah, no, it's just, and when Junko does show up, like she's the best part of the arc because like and the thing is, a lot of the decisions they made with her were dumb, but at least she was entertaining. Like,
yeah, when she was on camera, it was entertaining. It was entertaining to watch, to be sure, and whatnot. It's pretty.
But it's like they
crazy.
give her these subliminal messages that Madorai created that she uses to brainwash people, and it's like. And honestly, I think Ultra Despair Girls is one of the reasons why this is so disappointing. Because, like, we saw how Monica was able to psychologically break people so freaking easily. And you'd think, oh, Junko, since she's supposed to be Monica but more deadly, you'd assume that, oh, she just can do that whenever she wants. And, like, you see that a little bit with Kamakura. But it's like, no, she just cheated. She just had the friggin' brainwashy thing handed to her because she bumped into a guy.
Oh yeah. We all know the meme. I'll insert it here. Kamakura, Yas Queen.
I'll still recite that every once in a while and stuff like that, just because it gets.
I hate
Honestly,
it. It's funny.
It's not out of character for Junko because she kind of has to pretend to be such a moron in order to like. For a plan to work, so no one suspects her.
She can't be boring for Kamakura, though. I mean, it's one of those things where he's bored of literally everything. So it's like, well,
I mean, he only likes Despair, but he doesn't like that. Oh, okay. You know what? I'm just gonna take off the belt here and just talk about it. Chiaki died.
Ugh,
no. That
That
is the saddest thing I've ever seen.
killed me, dude. That whole lead up to it just totally killed me. Just because she didn't deserve any of that. She was like such a sweetheart, one of the best and beloved characters. That would not make me turn into an ultimate despair, though. That would make me want to kill Junko Inoshima. So as far as like the logic, as far as that is concerned, I'd be like, well, I mean, if I'm one of the 16 despair students, I'd be like, no, I'm not going to become an ultra despair person and stuff and want to kill the entire world. I just want to kill Junko Inoshima for doing that to my class president and stuff.
It makes no friggin' sense. And I guess it's like the subliminal messages inside it, but again, that's just such a stupid plot point. I will say, like, this anime was willing to get more brutal than the rest of the series between that and also the whole student council, like, butchering each other. Like, I was surprised how far they went in that scene with, like, all the shit that they did.
Oh yeah, for sure. Did anyone pay attention to what the chainsaw said on it? It said
No.
Freddy and Jason.
Oh my god. That is
No kidding.
And we all know who Freddy and Jason is. If you don't, here it is. Visuals on the screen.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I personally, like, Izuru at the end, I think he hated Chiaki, no, not Chiaki, Junko a lot, because he just leaves her and he says, until we meet again, like, implying that he will never want to see her again.
Yeah, no
That's
kidding.
just my opinion.
What about the friggin', like, guy who decided, oh yeah, no, I'm going to let Junko, run wild and possibly destroy the entire school because I'm gay and she knows I'm gay and I don't want Munakana to find out that I'm gay.
That guy could have stopped all of it. Oh shit, what was his name?
I forgot his name too.
Hazakura, I think. It was also his damn fault in the first place, because he's the one who told Hajime he was worthless, which caused him to become Kamakura. This is all his fucking fault.
Oh yeah, for sure. But the one thing I love about this anime is kind of like I guess the chemistry between Chiaki and Hajime. I wish we got more. Ugh.
It's like, part of me is like, yeah, that works. On the other hand, like, Chiaki was almost too perfect. Like, everyone's like kind of, not really vibing, and she's just like, oh hey, video games. Wow. And honestly, part of me thinks it was kind of cheap to have her like be a real person at all. Like, imagine how much powerful. I don't know. What do you think would be better if it turned out that, oh yeah, she was based on everyone's classmate, or if she was just like a complete fabrication by the Neo World program?
It's kind of hard to say per se. If I had to give an opinion, I would say like it does look a lot more better that she is a real person, because given the execution scene, it's the only execution we see in the series that has no gore. Or
I would agree with that,
stuff.
Brad. And the reason why I say that is because when you take her as a real person, that's going to give you a lot more hope that something or someone like that exists in the real world and that you're able to find a beautiful soul out there in the world. I mean, yeah, sure, we can argue that she is way too perfect, but from a storytelling standpoint, to give our characters a sense of hope that instead of some crazy, insane despair like Junko Nishima, who's able to bring the world to its knees, that there is somebody out there who's a beautiful soul out there, soulmate, if you will, to even Hajime, who's an actual real person. Whereas if she was just a cold designed computer program AI, it's one of those things where, yeah, we could believe that she's a real person, but she's not. She's an actual computer program designed to be perfect, but from a storytelling standpoint, it gives those characters hope in humanity outside.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Like
it just seemed like a weird decision to me. Like, that's
right.
Yeah. I mean, like, because here's the thing, it felt like a weird decision for me and kind of cheap, but I never really thought through, okay, is this actually a bad decision, or is it just kind of an odd one?
Yeah.
But anything else you guys want to say about the Despair arc?
I feel like Junko is like Emperor Palpatine. I know I've said this on your stream, dog. I didn't go into detail, but more so like in the expanded universe, Emperor Palpatine just has like he was born just evil. Like Junko, I feel like was just born evil. Yes, bad stuff happened to them lore wise, but it really did not matter in the end. They were just evil. They were evil from the start.
Right.
Like both of these are prequels to something horrible happening, and they're not only the villain but also the best character.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right. You only
Yeah.
need to know that they're evil, and that's it. I mean, you could go into their backstory maybe, but sometimes it's best even just from a storytelling standpoint, just be like, okay, this is evil. That's all you need to know. Don't make it too overly complicated. It's already complicated enough, but at the same time, sometimes even pure evil, with its simplicity, is just so fun to watch on the
terrifying.
screen.
Yeah.
Have our heroes rise
Okay,
up
so
against.
is that
Future arc.
everything?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so now on to the. Okay, so which arcs do you guys prefer? Honestly, I think Despair arc is the better out of the two.
No, I'm gonna agree with
neutral.
that.
I'm neutral
I
personally.
actually agree with you, Dafawfulizer. In that the Despair arc to me was better, just because I like to see the fall, more so than how they kind of picked up the pieces in Future arc. It seemed like they kind of fell back on the whole like, okay, we're gonna make another killing game, and we're gonna follow the script because that's kind of how we know how this is gonna go, or something like that. Whereas the Despair arc is like, okay, this is the fall of Hope Speak Academy and essentially the worlds leading up to the tragedy. Future arc is them trying to pick up the pieces, but it seemed kind of
Yeah.
sloppy
Yeah,
from a
just
writing standpoint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here's my positives with Future Arc real quick. Number one, the Killing Game has like both very interesting new rules with like the forbidden actions, and they're also much more better suited to it being, a 13 episode show. Because like when they tried to adapt the original game, like the pacing kind of got thrown off, but here it works with the pacing. There might have been also like it just kind of looks good at sort of being a post apocalyptic world. It really gets the aesthetic down. Those are the two things.
Oh yeah. The only thing I liked about it is like the forbidden actions and the I guess like it being revealed it's all suicides.
Yeah. Honestly, the forbidden action thing would be great for just like a different show. Like, just take this concept, put it in a show with much better writing, and you'll get something pretty damn good.
Oh yeah. And then I think the ultimate animator. We have to talk about him and Chasa. Chasa, she was good until she got lobotomized.
Yeah.
And then the ultimate animator, like I feel really bad for him. He actually wanted to make the world a good place, but he was manipulated.
Oh,
And he
Meteorite?
almost-
Yeah.
Yeah, Meteorite. And he almost screwed the world over again after releasing the Hope video.
Yeah, and the thing
Right.
kind of is, like, they always try to sort of make it out to be that. They make him out to be, oh no, he's like Junko, but he's just the opposite extreme. And it's like, wait, what wasn't that Nagito? We already had a character like that.
Junko was very like out there, very outgoing type of thing, and Mitarai was in some ways her opposite, being very like shut in. I have to, continue my art just by myself in my like own little apartment in the dark, not eating anything, not taking care of myself or anything like that. And he got he got the shit end of the stick on many occasions from a lot of the different characters and stuff from both of the arcs here and there, Despair arc and Future arc and stuff. But yeah, I feel bad for the guy, but yeah.
Going back, one more thing that I will say Despair Arc did well, giving Ultimate Imposter like an actual clear personality. I think that, because he was a character who needed fleshing out, and they managed to do it pretty well.
Yeah,
It's
for
like
sure.
most
better
people will
in that
say-
arc than the game.
Yeah, no, because people will say, and they're mostly right, saying that Despair Arc's not that good at fleshing out characters, because when it comes to the characters that they focus on, it's the same damn characters that they focused on in the game. It's Nagito, Chiaki, and Hajime. Like, those are the only three. I would like Fuyuhiko for one arc, but just because you already knew it was going to happen, Ultimate Imposter's the one exception to that. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, for sure, for
Right.
sure.
He was killed off in the first chapter of the second game, and it's like you didn't have enough time with him to kind of realize what kind of character he was, but the anime made us realize what his character was and that he actually had a personality because he was impersonating Byakuya pretty much the entirety of the first chapter to a point, but you never really got to know who he was until you saw him trying
did
to
get a
impersonate
sense of it
Mithrai.
though. He's like this very sort of like honorable, like duty bound kind of guy. Because if you noticed, like the way he acted, he was much more caring about others than Byakuya was. But it made sense because it seemed like the direction he was going in at the end of the first game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But again, it's like very much hidden in the subtext.
I did like the ultimate imposter's, I guess, like true face reveal. He looks really old for his age. I'm just gonna say that.
Oh, I forgot that. I forgot that. Anyway, we were talking about the future arc. Sorry.
I think my only favorite part was the ending of the Hope arc, which is the ending of the future arc. I don't know why. For some reason, it gives me Return of the Jedi vibes. It just feels like a good conclusion. Everything's like solved. Like we're like there's no more like wars and all that shit.
Have you seen the
huh?
Have you seen the outtake? You know, the very infamous outtake in the last episode.
Oh yeah. I think I'm not too sure which one I saw when I saw the episode. I'm not too sure if I saw I Should Be Dead or the Everyone's Waiting for Your Principal. I've seen both of them online. I don't remember which one I saw.
No, it was the I Should Be Dead. It was yeah, I don't get this either. I'm pretty sure I died.
That one. Like I preferred the redub.
It was laughable just how many characters they spared. Like it was like it would be one thing if it was just, you know, if it was just like the Danganronpa 2 cast, but no, they spared the Warriors of Hope. They didn't even make it ambiguous. Like they could have just had Kotoko there, like, no, I'm looking around. I still think they're out there. No, it's just like, yep, we're alive. That's how it's gonna go. And they kill Kyoko just to bring her back. And I also remember seeing this amazing point about Tengen that someone brought up in a review of the Despair arc. I mean, not the Despair arc, the Future arc. It was, you know, he didn't have to do this killing game. Literally, if he wanted the Hope video to be unleashed on the world, he could have just asked Mitarai for it. And if he refused, he could just steal it. I mean, he's in a position of authority, and Mitarai is a fucking skeleton.
Oh yeah, for sure. I do agree with that.
Oh, but I guess, as you know, making a big show of it and wiping out his entire ranks is apparently the better move.
It's a little bit of a thing too, to where even poking holes in the narrative and trying to see exactly how the plot was going to make this all work and stuff, where it's like, okay, why didn't you do this? Or same thing with like Tengen. It's like, okay, you really could have done so many of these things here and there yourself with Mitarai. And even if you like you were saying, even if Mitarai somehow grew a spine and said no or something like that, you could just steal that and just do it anyway or something. But
oh yeah.
But no, even like before like V3, I thought they wrapped up the story pretty well with the Hope arc ending and stuff. I mean, when you see the ending, it almost feels like it had reached their conquering moment where everything was going to try to get back to normalcy.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It kind of like wrapped everything up. And then when you hear that there's another game after that, it's like, oh, okay, all right. We're going to go with this one.
Oh yeah.
Like I liked the sort of climax with all them like sort of with their Ultra Despair aesthetic, but they're the good guys now. Like that was the main reason why I was okay with everyone living, just because it made for a really nice climax.
And is Monica dead? I feel like she's dead because she's out in space. There's no oxygen up there, but
no, she has like her own spaceship. I'm assuming like she would have. Honestly, I can't believe I forgot to mention that. It was it's just like no, she's like this total sadist, and the enemy's just like, yeah, no, I'm bored of that. I don't want to go around killing everyone anymore. I'm leaving. Bye-bye. Like, it was funny in the moment, but at the same time, it's just like, that's the best conclusion you could have come up with for her? Really?
I mean, I like to think she's dead in space because there's no way she's going to come back.
And I'm not sure if the Japanese people would give the implication of killing kids or something. So if she's seen as like a kid or like a minor or something like that, it's like, okay, well, we can't kill kids at this one. So
yeah,
why don't we just have her end be
she
her
would launch herself into space if she didn't have a plan to survive.
I'm not too sure. What's the name of the white-haired dude who's the polar opposite of Makoto?
Munakata?
Mudokata, is that it?
He's the one
Oh,
who's trying
yeah,
to kill him all
Munakata.
throughout the future arc.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Munakata.
He's an interesting character. Like, I felt like he was a good contrast to Makoto
Yeah.
Naegi.
I did like the fact that those two are at odds, though, because when you have characters that are in odds and conflict with each other who ultimately have the same kind of end goal in mind, they just have different pasts that are driving them, and also, like, different points of view here and there about the certain story and whatnot. Like, he had his own method of getting his own stuff done, to be sure. It's very methodical and stuff, but it's just so interesting to see how they pitted those two characters against each other throughout the series, and especially so as it coming to the head in the future arc when they really had to kind of work their own shit out and stuff like that. But it's really crazy to see how they set that up.
Oh yeah, and what's the name of the Ando and the Ultimate Blacksmith? Those two characters are horrible.
Oh god, yeah, and the friggin' confectioner, yeah.
Ugh.
This is like as scummy as you could make someone. Because I mean, the guy I saw who did the future arc review like pointed out like Kadaka like was supervising, but he didn't like do any of the writing for the anime. That's probably one of the reasons it sucks so much.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which is also kind of baffling. It's like this is the big finale to this like franchise that might wind up being your magnum opus. Like, why the hell are you choosing to step back now of all times?
Okay, so now let's get on to the let's talk about a different topic that's a lot more happier, I guess, from a certain point of view. V3. The Joker.
Just gonna preface this because
Oh wow.
what? Sorry, what did you say?
I was just saying, like, oh wow, V3. Yeah, I just wrapped that one up, and holy crap, dude. No,
Yeah,
go ahead, Buffalo. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, just to preface this, at the time of recording this, my most recent video is literally titled "Why Danganronpa V3 is the worst one." Like,
Oh no.
I'm talking specifically about the main trilogy. I'm very much torn between whether I like this or Ultra Despair Girls more. I'm leaning more towards this, but out of the three main ones, yeah, this is my least favorite. But I'll get into my problems when we do. Let's start.
I'll start with the gameplay. The gameplay I feel like it is very perfected in this game. I think this is like the best quality, I guess, in terms of the gameplay. But it's like has a very high spike level, which is not very fun for some.
Yeah, I mean,
Mine also suck.
being the latest game in this series, like the one that was most recently released, of course, it's going to have perfected its gameplay because it did combine a little bit of the first person kind of perspective that you got from the first game, but also a lot of the visual novel aspect that the whole thing is known for. But the trials were very fluid. You had a lot of the stuff that was going on with a lot of those different options for shooting. Hangman's Gambit was a lot better for me in this game than it was in the other one, but from a gameplay standpoint, this one worked a whole lot well because they had time to perfect it. I liked this game personally. I know that you might Dafawfulizer, you might say that this is the worst of the three. Me personally, I
Just to
still
clarify,
like it a lot.
I still think it's a good game. I do.
Yeah. Well, the way I described it to a lot of people in my community was to me, a lot of these games, like every single one of the games, all three of them in the main series, like chocolate pudding and chocolate cake. I really can't go wrong with like choosing any one of them. I do have a preference between those two choices myself. You can't go wrong if you decide to play or pick up and play any one of those ones. But
Oh yeah, for sure.
I do have a preference like over the other, so to speak.
I guess like there is here's an interesting theory. I heard this a long time ago that suggests that Smoogies possibly in their 30s or 40s, probably or 50s at the latest, because she references very like 90s and 2000s anime that no one really gets. Even Kokichi pointed out. Wow, you
Dude,
must be a
I would
hardcore
see-
loser.
I was even like noticing several references here, and again, I mean, without revealing my age or something like that. I mean, I'm not that old, but at the same time, she was referencing a '90s anime that I'd heard of from way back when I was like a little kid. called Marmalade Boy, which is about this crazy story here and there about like two step siblings like living together and eventually falling in love, which is crazy in of itself. But like she dropped that reference in the story. I'm like, wow,
That
Samugi,
is
you got to be a
interesting.
lot older than like just teenage level or something if you know that.
Okay,
She could be
but
really.
speaking of which, what do we think of Samugi as a character?
You know, I didn't like her so much like throughout most of it. Yeah, sure. It was well the whole time that I was playing the game, I was wondering when are we gonna see the ultimate cosplayer cosplay? Because we had unlocked her lab, so to speak, here and there, and she didn't even do very much over there. And I'm like, okay, this might be leading to some crazy finale thing, which it did. That was kind of predictable in that sense, because I was going into that final trial, and I'm like, okay, she's here, and I do not think they're going to do a Yasuhiro type of situation where she's just that plain character who just skates by and ends up surviving just because she's plain and just is out of the way or something like that. She's got to bring out her ultimate ability somehow, and she ended up doing it with that. Was it the
Oh
best
yeah,
thing
for
that they could
sure.
have done? I'm not so sure. Although I think in some way after playing it, it seemed like they really wanted to like wrap up the entire story or something like that and try to like put an end to like all of it, which well, we'll see if there's a fourth game. I know it's going to be another topic of discussion here for today and stuff like that, but
We'll get to that.
Oh, I'll get to him, don't worry.
Yeah,
I like
for
to
me,
think that.
yeah, no, for me, like Samugi was one of the worst characters in the game. Not the worst, but she was up there. Just because her whole thing is just agreeing to go along with whatever everyone else is doing, and then when she actually does get revealed to be the villain, like I still think she's the worst in the. Ignoring characters from the anime, I think she's the worst villain in the series.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, so cast-wise, how do we feel about the Kaie dead and Saihara switch, Aru?
I
No,
would have
I
preferred Kaede stayed the main character.
me personally, I would have also preferred that too. It was actually a nice like dynamic change to have the female leads. Something different here and there for a change that wasn't, just all that crazy. I mean, you could have had an argument where Shuichi was essentially playing the role of Kyoko or something like that, being ultimate detective or whatnot. And I mean, that could have been just like a nod to the first game, but the fact that she was not like the ultimate lucky student or something, but rather the ultimate pianist, somebody who seems to kind of have almost a normal ability and somebody that's not too out there, somebody who's down to earth, somebody you can relate to,
Yeah.
warm, friendly, the whole bit and stuff. I would have preferred her to be the actual protagonist throughout the entire game, but
Yeah, and I had two suggestions from fans. One of them was make Shuichi the mastermind, which would have been interesting. But the other
Would
was the
love
one I
that.
really liked, and it sort of is a best of both worlds approach. You keep the twist in chapter 1 the exact same, but you switch the roles. You start off playing as Shuichi, but then it turns out he's the culprit, and then you play as Kaede for the rest of the game.
no, that would have actually worked so well. And even
Because
that one
you get
suggestion you dropped of him being the villain maybe the entire time, have the ultimate detective as your villain. That would have been freaking
Yeah.
meta, dude.
That would
Yeah.
have been awesome. I'd like to think now this is my interpretation. I noticed that the writing is a little bit fan fiction-y, not in a bad way, but I think it's like the game explain. It's literally a game explain why they shouldn't make more games because you're gonna know the twists and turns. Oh, it's gonna be super meta like that type thing. I don't know.
Well, that last
honestly,
chapter,
I
the
really
last
hated how
trial.
meta this game was. I did. I hated the ending.
Yeah, it's
Like,
almost as if they were teaching us, the fans, like, oh, hey, it's wrong to want more games or something like that towards the very end, where I'm like, it really calls out everybody and stuff at the very end and stuff, where it's like, the whole reason why we keep killing each other is because everybody's been demanding more games. Do you know that when you demand more games, there's going to be more bloodshed and stuff like that? So, in order to defeat despair, we have to become despair or something like that, in addition to hope or something. Just kind of throw out all of it and just not make any games anymore.
Oh yeah.
Instead, we gotta have Kadaka be the one who has despair and to have him go broke because no one will buy his games because he told us not to.
Yeah, it seems like it's got its own like self-defeating type of thing at the very end, where it's like Guess what? We're not going to make any more games because it's wrong to do so. So there you go.
No, here's
Yeah.
the thing. If they wanted to do a meta thing about how it's going to become played out if they keep doing more games, here's what they should have done. They should have, because here's the thing. Monokuma throughout this game is at his worst because he barely feels like a villain anymore, mainly because the Monokubs overshadow him. But what they should have done is like just have Samugi, like while everything's going on, Monokuma just goes up halfway through the trials to like, Samugi, stop. I can't do this anymore. I'm so tired of doing this. And because throughout the entire game, he kind of feels like an old man who doesn't want to do this anymore. So if they actually work that into the plot, and then you're working with him to get the killing game taken off the air, and then he just goes separate ways with them, like that's both a funny idea and it gets the message across in a much less hypocritical sounding way. And he could sort of be a
Right.
stand-in for Kadaka in that way.
For sure,
They,
for sure.
they could have toned it down in a way to have it be a little bit more effective with that, like you were saying and stuff. I mean, he was taking a snooze throughout some of the trial and stuff in this game where it's like, oh yeah, I'm waking up. Hey, you Cubs can handle it and stuff like that. Oh yeah, it just like totally blanks out for like an entire chapter and doesn't like say anything or do anything and stuff. And it's like, okay, all right, that's
Speaking of
all
which,
right.
Chapter 3 of this game, worst chapter in the series, if you ask me.
It's a meme.
Yeah, I know. Seesaw Effect. Seesaw Effect was honestly the least of this chapter's problems, if you're asking me. Like, there
It's a cool
was.
concept, but it's
Yeah. It's like, if
Mm.
for starters, the Necronomicon, like, you can't just introduce something like that and not make use of it. Like,
Oh,
you
I
have to at
know,
least
dude.
show
Like
us.
for real. That's one thing that I hate that fact that they didn't use it.
and they
So that's a-
didn't and they didn't even do the correct one. The Necronomicon in H.P. Lovecraft's universe just causes despair and insanity. But nope, it has to be resurrection ritual. Not Deadite style. Or is it Deadite
Yeah.
style?
I don't know. Secondly, Angie should have been the killer in this chapter. She absolutely should have, because otherwise the whole student council plot line was kind of for nothing. Like in the trial, like they could make it super obvious from the clues, but everyone's in the student council has been so brainwashed by her that they won't listen to reason. I mean, the scrum debates were practically built for that scenario.
Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
I did find it interesting that they like made her like this religious cult leader where essentially she like gets insane towards this chapter and I mean, I'm not so like hung up about her or something like that to where if you have somebody who's like, all right, we got to take her out because reasons, that's reason enough or something like that. But Korikio to me was like just as unsettling to me. Well, not just as much, but maybe just slightly less unsettling like Monica was in Ultra Despair Girls. He was a character that I kind of cringed a whole lot at. So I'm like, wow, okay, we found out a lot about you, dude, especially with you and your sister.
His motive was
We can talk
hilarious.
about that.
But what would have happened also if maybe this chapter was changed up a little bit to where some people would have wanted Kaede back, but instead they got like Rantaro. Like they used the Necronomicon, instead of like bringing Kaede back or something like that, they brought back like Rantaro, and he became a little bit more so the story or something because I just think he was cut short a little bit too much in this game. But
Oh, yeah,
that's
for
just-
sure.
There's that. There's also just the fact that like Monodum's in charge, and this has literally no bearing on the story whatsoever. Like I actually liked
didn't-
Monodum as a character, but
Right, like he even I was even thinking that he was going to be a plant for like maybe some like Ultimate Hope or something like that coming up, but it turns out that he wasn't. He just became Firewood at one point.
yeah,
But at the same time, like as the Monokubs were dying left and right here and there, I was wondering whether or not Monokuma or maybe Monotaro were going to figure out, wait a minute, you're the guy who's killing all the other Monokubs. What are you doing? or something like that, to where you find out he's working for like somebody else, like one of the students who it could have been Shuichi, it could have been somebody else.
Mew,
Don't really know.
because she's the ultimate inventor.
Yeah, sure.
Oh.
That would have made sense too. Would have made total
no.
sense.
Miyu. Oh, I know too many people who are like IRL Miyus. Oh, I mean,
I
it's
actually
I
like
mean,
Mew.
if you're into that lifestyle, cool. But just don't talk about all the time.
No, I mean, I loved Mia as a character. She was she was definitely one of my favorites in this game for sure, just because of like how crazy she was and stuff. I mean, yeah, you do have some ladies out there that are like that to be sure and whatnot. And I do have some friends of mine who talk about that stuff fairly often and whatnot. But I mean, it's not like all the time. It seemed like she was on it 24/7, which again, when you're talking about like the Danganronpa characters, a lot of times their character personality traits get turned up to 11 all the time. Yeah, she was turned up to 11 like all the freaking time, but I actually like that about her character though.
Yeah, no, I thought it made for a really funny character. Actually, before we get into discussing the characters as a whole, what do we think about what do you guys think about the setting? Because honestly, to me, it felt like a failed compromise between the first two
I just
games.
I couldn't agree more. I thought it was kind of weaker. Like, it doesn't even go for the claustrophobia of like of an actual spaceship. If it is a spaceship, plot twist.
Yeah.
I just thought that it's like very open space. Like you feel like entrapped, but not really.
Yeah. No.
Why
did
did
they let you go outside? There's sunlight. There's plants everywhere. Doesn't work. And I know it's supposed to be like crumbled down, but it's not in any spooky way. It's just kind of old.
Yeah.
Right. No, exactly. The brilliance of the first game, it still is like probably one of the most brilliant things I've ever played. I know that number 2 is my favorite, but even the brilliance of the first game, that claustrophobic feeling, the entrapment that you feel, you can't go outside. You're in this building and that's all you get.
And it's like you have the greenhouse, but it's like that is cut off from everything still.
Right, it's still cut off, you're still enclosed. Even if you can see outside, you're trapped inside, which even, like, with all the stuff that we got going on nowadays and stuff with all the pandemic and everything, you still kind of feel that closed in, trapped. Yeah, you could go outside maybe, but in this universe, you can see outside, but you can't go outside type of deal,
Yeah,
for sure.
which would kill me if I knew I was inside a building and I couldn't go out. But
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, trials wise, I don't like trials wise. I feel like the first one is probably the most interesting because it pulls off the protagonist all switcheroo and it kills the main protagonist within the first few hours of the game, kind of like that movie you're seeing on the screen. But
Why?
I'm leaving everything up to you, Shuichi. Goodbye.
I don't want to live.
I just trials wise, I think the mechanics were there. It's just I don't know, like
they were too similar to Danganronpa 2, honestly.
True.
Like it
To a
definitely had some
point,
good
yeah.
ones. The second trial is seriously underrated, and the fourth one is fantastic. But third's my least favorite in the series, and fifth I liked when I first played it, but looking back, it is too similar to Trial 5 from Danganronpa 2.
Well, yeah, that's my thing too. I love the fifth trial. I really do. It's one of those things where it did strongly mirror a lot of the stuff that happened in Danganronpa 2 with Nagito and whatnot. And it's one of those things where the setup of it is really, really brilliant when you think about Kokichi's character, which I will still stand by my own statement on my own channel where I say that he is the best character in this entire lineup, for me at least.
In just V3 or like whole series?
Just V3, but he's like
Yeah.
top 3 characters in the series for me at least. Behind
Like-
like Nagito and Junko for me, but that's just me.
Okay.
I like Kokichi. My problem is his stands. And
Stance?
stands, like they're actual stands. If you talk bad, they'll actually go after you.
Oh, his stance. I thought you meant stance, like how he stands or something like that. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I was like,
stands.
what? I mean, I mean, they did give a lot of good
stills for sprites for him, like very creative. And it's like, I'm not
And
sure that's what
curse.
you're talking about.
All of his demon sprites and stuff. I was just like, yes, oh my god, dude, I freaking love it, dude. Just
It's like Nagito's got like one sprite where he's going crazy. Monica is like 2. Kokichi has like 6.
it's like 6 where he's just absolutely like losing his mind. You think it can't get any worse than that, but then you keep playing the game, you're like, oh no, they get worse.
I
They
got
get even
purple
more
smoke
insane.
coming out of my mouth for some reason.
Oh yeah, for sure,
My
for
eyes
sure.
are glowing red and like I got flames everywhere. My hand is all deformed now, and I'm like, oh my god, let's freaking go, dude. But
Okay, so now that we've stumbled into that, we might as well go favorites and least favorites character
favorite
wise.
and least favorites. I'm gonna start with you, Defibrillator, first because I'm kind of curious.
Okay, Kokichi is probably my favorite. He's just a very well-rounded character all around. Like he's not as unpredictable as Nagito, which is why I like Nagito a bit more. But he also adds this really like nice trollish charm. So it's kind of why I kind of go back and forth on which one I like more. Kaito was really nice, like real beacon of positivity. Gonta's friggin' adorable, and I said I liked Mew too. Least favorites. My least favorite in the game is Himiko. Just like her, like the way she's written does not match up with like her expressions and her voice. There's just like this huge disconnect, and it just leaves her being a very uninteresting, like, because she's written like this hyperactive, goofy kid, but when she's talking, she's just like very uninterested, which is like my fans have pointed out, like, oh, that's because she's depressed. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense, but it doesn't make her character that interesting. And like her friggin' and like her running jokes are like way less funny than the game seems to think they are. And then
It's magic.
It's magic.
yeah.
Okay, I'll stop.
no,
Like
you
literally
ate that,
just
Ben.
better voice performance. It could have been funny. And like literally, I know it's partially like the disconnect between the writing and like the design and voice, because their funniest segments when she was in the Neo World program, filling more in the blanks. And then second least favorite, very close behind her, and this one's gonna piss everyone off, Kibo.
I definitely do see
Yeah.
where you're coming from. That
I don't.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
not gonna get pissed off
very
because of that. Actually, I mean,
yeah.
that's not a bad call there, dude.
Yeah, he comes off as very bland. Like it feels like instead of personality traits that just come up with new functions for him, like the only thing that he really has going for him, like there's this like quest of learning what it is to be human, but that doesn't really happen. And the only other thing he has is like reacting angrily when someone usually Kokichi insults him, and even then, like Mew does the same thing but way funnier.
that's
Dude, I actually
robophobic.
my favorite scenes though with Kibo were always the ones where it was him and Mew though. Just because
Oh.
Yeah.
he's so freaking like uncomfortable, and she's trying to like get at him to like learn more about him or try to see what kind of like functions he has and stuff like that. But if I mean, I know
That scene was hilarious.
Yeah,
I mean, me personally, I'm not going to disagree with you about Keyboy being like one of the more bland characters. He kind of was out of the entire lineup of the guys, at least for me and stuff. But my favorite scenes with him to this day would still be those scenes here and there where Mew's like just trying to get at him and stuff like that, and he's
hey, I won't fault you for that. I mean, you know my thoughts on Mew. I think she can even make Kibo interesting in the right circumstances.
I get it.
But yeah, no. And the thing I just want to get at is like this game, if you ask me, was easily like the worst judge of who should live and who should die. Because like I mean, you get to the final trial and it's like, oh, you got my 3 least favorite characters in the game still alive. Like, and
no,
like
for real
everyone
though.
else who was interesting died. Like, I mean, at least let Mew live. There's no reason why she has to die for like one of these dramatic ones. Like Gonta, there was a good reason for that. Kaito, Kokichi, all good reasons for them. At least let her live. Or like friggin' Kurumi, who like honestly could have gotten a lot more development, but no.
There was a video that suggested that Kurumi should have been the person that killed Tenko, and she should have survived to be like the final 4, which would have been interesting. You still could have had the same twist, but Ryoma could have been killed by Tsumugi, and the imposter could have faked their death. Kind of like a Junko situation.
Right, could have been. Yeah, I agree with you, Dafawfulizer. I wish that Kurumi would have had a lot more development in this series. She even getting up to chapter 2 when she met her end and stuff, didn't actually get to talk to her all that much, just through the click-throughs because chapter 1 was basically all well, it wasn't all, but it was mostly like Kaede and Shuichi's dynamic and the two of them between each other. And Kurumi, like Yoko in D2, was essentially very underdeveloped in this one, which out of all the ladies, at least, my two least favorites, I know people in my community might crucify me for this one, but Kirumi was my original like waifu from first impressions when I saw their characters, when they remember how they looked. She didn't do too much. Same with like Samugi. I'm like too bland, too boring. Even when you get up to the finale, I'm like, okay, is that how it really works? But
Yeah.
all right.
I mean, with Kurumi, like at first I was originally really saying, "Oh, she's like really boring," but after hearing more from people, I'm like, you know what? She's like a case with Mahiru. It's like I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she would have grown on me if you gave her more time, but you didn't,
Right.
and this is the result.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, the ladies that were my favorites, though, I have to say that Maki and Mia were my two favorites. Now, for one comment and stuff about the entirety of the Danganronpa series, characters have been horny since the first game. Genocide Jack and Toko were horny, like hot messes, like for like the first game, leading all through this and stuff. I mean, that kind of energy still came through in this game, at least for me. And Mew kind of played that dynamic along with the insanity like side of things being more so in Kokichi. So if you were to take like Genocide Jack energy, it was kind of split between the two of those characters, where Genocide Jack's insanity and like Kokichi and crazy horniness from Toko and Mew. But again, like turned up
Put it
times
that way,
11
that's
to where
interesting.
I'm gonna say my favorite characters. I think Kaya dead. Yes, I'm calling her Kaya dead because she's kind of dead. She's definitely one of my favorite female characters.
she's
I
wonderful, dude.
I think my favorite male character, of course, Kokichi. Besides, the only problem I have with him is his annoying fans and
Yeah.
just his manipulative nature. But that's what makes him interesting. I guess like also I do like Kaito Momota. My least favorite is probably Rantaro because we don't really get too much of him. I wish we got more development on him. I
Oh, yeah.
think
Out of all the first kills, he feels like the least developed. Like even Ultimate Imposter, even without the anime, I felt like I had gotten to know him more in the second game than I did with Rantaro.
Oh yeah, for
Right.
sure. But besides him, in which he I feel like Ryoma a little bit because like we don't like we could have seen like some cool development from him, but he was cut short by Kurumi, and he saw his motive video. My least favorite character, as much as I love Maki Roll, I'm not a huge fan of her because she has that catchphrase, "Do you want to die?" And she gives me Darth Maul vibes, but not in a good way. Like I feel like there could have been more like more potential. Miyu, because I know too many Miyus in real life, but I don't really like hate this cast too much. I feel like this is like one of the better casts. It's like an interesting fit bag. D2 I think is the second best. I think this is probably the best in my opinion.
It's a great cast. I mean, Kaede is an incredible girl. I mean, like for real. I mean, I even did the Love Hotel like scenes and stuff as like extra content after we were done on like YouTube playing through the main game and stuff. But hers was like the sweetest one out of all of them. Just kind of clicking through it and stuff, and you can see like that she has a really good heart, and she would have made such a great protagonist in this game. She really would have. If her time wasn't like so tragically cut short. Yeah, I'm actually a Makirol fan. I will say that, I mean, Brad, I mean, I can see how people wouldn't like her though, because she just downright pissed me off in the first couple of chapters. I'm
Oh yeah,
like,
for sure.
I don't know what your deal is, but there's just like something so standoffish about you that just,
Not
I
There's
don't
fun.
know what it
that,
is.
like,
I just don't like. She
plus
grew
there's the
on me
fact that
throughout the game.
Like,
plus there's the fact that like she's trying to put her assassin days behind her, but she's also casually threatening to kill everyone as a quirky little catchphrase.
Like, as soon as they figure out that she's the ultimate assassin, or when Kokichi tells everybody that like who she really is and stuff, it's like, oh, okay, I can actually drop my regular tagline catchphrase and stuff with everybody. Oh, do you want to die? Yes.
And am I the only one who feels like Kaede gives you Kurumi Mizono from Your Line April vibes?
I've never seen Your Lie in April, so I.
Oh, that's
Um,
a beautiful anime, but
I
I mean,
mean, I mean visually, and I guess like character-wise, they're very similar.
well, I mean, well, since you bring up Your Lie in April, I love that anime. It's so wonderful. All the music and the colors and stuff, they did a fantastic job with that one. She does give off that same kind of vibe, and I would not be surprised if the creators who actually put her character together in terms of the design and how she was written actually had used like Maizono from Your Lie in April as inspiration for her character. I would not be surprised to learn that. But I mean, at the same time, yeah, I totally get that vibe for sure. She does have that kind of thing going for her.
I guess that would make sense why Suichi and Kaede, or sorry, I'll say her name, Kaede, are very similar to those two characters. Suichi is what's the name of the protagonist's name in Your Line April? It's been a while.
I know what you're talking about. It's just I think I watched like hundreds of anime shows to where it's like you get me going on a season and I might forget some names or something. But no, I know who you mean. But his character is essentially the same as Shuichi, where he's very introverted, not sure of himself, doesn't know where he's going with life and how he fits in with his friend groups, but eventually does open up to people, and it is because of that girl character who kind of brings it out of him and stuff, if you will.
How do
for
we
sure.
feel about Shuichi in regards in comparison to like the other protagonists?
I feel like he gets the most development. He's like what's Hajime Hinata's type development, but I think it works better with Hajime because it makes more sense because he actually did something bad.
Yeah.
Right.
As Izuru.
Like Hajime as Izuru has done unspeakable and horrible acts as Izuru. He's choosing to do better going forward and stuff. He realizes that he has a past and it sucks. And he's got to live with that for the rest of his life. But he's now fighting for good, even when he gets back out of the virtual worlds and getting out into the real world. He's deciding to be a better person because of it and stuff. Shuichi throughout the series, he was. I mean, it's one of those things where they didn't drop the ball in his development as a main protagonist. They brought him out of his shell. He was that introverted, unsure kind of character, and he eventually gains his confidence along friendships, but he was kicked around so damn much throughout this game. I mean, as you guys were mentioning, Dafawfulizer, as you mentioned before, a lot of the characters that are good characters were killed throughout so many of these chapters, and that would literally tear me up inside. I do understand where he was coming from that one chapter where he just stays in his room all day and just is a depressed mess.
Yeah, for sure.
Doesn't go out. I would probably take me even more than a day, like realizing that you lose all that many friends to actually get out and
Yeah.
want to do anything. Like they kind of switch around in like 24 hours or something like that, but it's hard.
For sure. I think
Honestly, I was gonna say overall, I think this game had the weakest cast, and admittedly, I think it mostly comes down to like the order they were killed. Just because, like I said, my three least favorite characters make it to the finale, but beyond those two, I honestly found Tenko and Angie kind of annoying too. Outside of them, though, it was mostly fine. It was just the other two games. I don't know. I guess the other two games didn't have characters that I hated quite as much as Himiko or Kibo.
Oh yeah, Tenko. I had to go on a tangent. She's probably my least favorite character of the entire series, and
Oh,
Danganronpa 3. Well, in case you didn't know, I'm actually a martial artist personally myself, and I thought her character was kind of offensive. Like,
really?
Don't get me wrong. I'm not like gonna be like social justice warrior about this, but I felt like the portrayal of martial arts in this one, they picked a really controversial martial arts topic, Aikido, which is kind of seen as kind of like being fake, and the person who like most famous practitioners of that martial arts is Steven Seagal, and he's
No,
kind
I
of an
saw like
asshole.
John Tron's whole video on it where he's just like Aikido. Yeah. Oh, you mean this martial art that is fake? I mean, look at the videos.
I mean, I have done it myself. It's not the most effective, but it's interesting. It's just like it gives the martial art has a bad rap, but having Tenko like represent it with her in a weird fetish towards Himiko, Ugh, no, please no. And then I feel like if you were to write another martial arts character, I think they should go more so with the Karate Kid route from the '80s movies. I thought that was a good portrayal of the martial arts world.
Man, the ultimate martial artist is Sakura Ogami from the first game. Just throwing that out there and whatnot. That is
yeah.
the
Oh
most
yeah,
martial
oh yeah,
artist
she,
in
oh yeah, oh yeah,
a
she's
thousand,
better. She's a better portrayal.
1,000 times better than Senko
Yeah,
for me, at least.
Yeah, she's the one who's so strong that she had to kill herself because no one else would be able to do it.
Oh
No,
Jesus,
right.
no. Poor Sakura. But yeah,
No, like if Juko, like Monokuma would just try to execute her, and then like the machine would break down because it's
oh yeah, the she gets the crush, she literally just stops it like the Incredible Hulk or like Mr. Incredible, and
No,
just like
no,
throws it up.
like
The
shatters
Chuck
the
Norris
moment
of
it hits her.
Danganronpa.
Huh?
Chuck Norris of Danganronpa. COVID-19 is scared of catching Sakura Ogami. Sakura Ogami is not doing push-ups. She's pushing the earth down.
Oh God.
Boogeyman
yeah.
checks his closet for Sakura Ogami.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I think Danger Doug. I'm kind of curious, who are your top two characters? I know you just finished it.
Yeah, I mean, from like V3 standpoint, I mean, of course, from the guys Kokichi and Kaito, are, like their dynamic, the two of them, like cannot be ignored from this cast. I mean, that was a big highlight. Even with like them being at odds with each other the entire time, that kind of really drove a lot of the plot here and there and a lot of the trials and stuff. I mean, you had Kokichi with lies and Kaito is believing a lot of his friends and trying to push for good and stuff. I mean, that really drove a lot of the trials and made them interesting. Without that dynamic between the two of them, like just chaos and like a little bit more like order or like believing in good, without that, the trials wouldn't have been nearly as interesting. It just wouldn't have.
And who are your two worst favorite characters?
From the well,
Or
from
least favorite
V3.
characters? Yeah, V3 alone.
I mean, Smugi. Smugi's got to be one of them, and same with like Tenko. Although, I mean, Korikyo was unsettling to be sure, but he brought in that sort of reminder that there are supposed to be very unsettling characters in Danganronpa. That adds to the story because you're supposed to have like weird characters, one-offs that you're not supposed to identify with, but just know that they do exist. And even in this kind of crazy world that we live in, stuff that there are people out there that are like that too, that are not necessarily, I mean, they don't believe the same things that you do or something like that. And it's like him with his sister and stuff. It's like, but that does exist out there. But it highlights.
How do you feel about Smugi as the mastermind? I despised it. Like, it makes
No.
sense, like, having the most boring character, you wouldn't expect it, but at the same time, you kind of do expect it. And then it just wrote the series in a corner.
Yeah, she was very plain, boring, go along to get along kind of character throughout. I really thought she was going to be like a Yasuhiro. Just this plain person who just skates by while everybody else kills each other and oh yeah, I just kind of made it just because.
Thinking
random
about what she
chance.
was going to do, she was such a nothing character.
Right. Well, it kind of paralleled Yasuhiro for me in the first game where I'm like, how did this guy skate by and get to this point? How did he get to the finale and make it through? I thought that was going to happen, but I also saw that when you didn't see her ultimate cosplay ability, that they're going to throw that in there just because you don't write in that ultimate ability and expect not to use it. But then again, I suppose you don't write in a Necronomicon and expect not to use it too. So there goes that idea too.
And then, all right, so now we get into the fourth game. It was recently announced that the fourth game's coming.
It was?
Yes. I will link you the article after this interview. So
okay, because I had people like ask about it, and I searched it up, and all I remembered hearing was Kodaka confirming that it could happen. I didn't hear any confirmation that it would, although it doesn't surprise me because like you don't just make this huge hype up about the 10th anniversary and have the highlight be mobile ports.
Right, and even like to kind of draw a weird alternate parallel too. And this is going to be it's going to sound left field, but I promise it's going to make sense. Guns N' Roses. I'm sure both of you guys have probably heard of that band.
yeah.
I mean, I know they're a band. That's
Right. They released a series of albums, and they were on top of the rock world from, like, the late '80s to the mid-90s, and then they had their feud, and then they went away, they broke up, didn't get back together again until, like, late 2010s, but it was to get out there, put the music out there again, and start, cranking up the machine again and stuff. When you have a series like Danganronpa, so beloved by all the fans and stuff, have a lot of, like, hardcore dedicated fans that just absolutely love the characters, love the games themselves and stuff. When you're gonna say it's wrong to make more games and then just expect us to not want another game and whatnot, you gotta think that at some point
That's
you
interesting.
probably are gonna be putting another game together just because you want to give the fans something because we're asking for this and whatnot, but, yeah, it's just me, I guess.
Oh
We could
yeah.
see it different ways, but
I guess like in terms of the games, my ideas, I have a few ideas. I think they could go with Distrust, which is I think the most difficult to pull off. They have a Telltale style game where like different endings, different game playthroughs means in order to get this good ending, you have to play a specific way. Either
yeah.
that, I think that's one of my ideas. I think they should definitely explore that route. The only problem is I think it would differ so differently from the pop art style. It'd be very violent, gory, like Hostel or Saw. The other idea I had is a game after V3 or like before V3, Brontaro's killing game. Explain how did he get there? Maybe there was a failed trial. Maybe someone faked their death. And hence why he's in the V3 killing game. Or my
Right.
last idea is continue after D3, like having like the descendants, successors, and I guess children, like Makoto Naegi, Toko, Kyoko, all that jazz.
No, for real. And Brad, I actually think that you hit the nail on the head with probably one of the best ways that they could go about this, going into maybe like a fourth game is multiple endings. I actually love that idea. And I know that right now on the YouTube channel that I'm doing right now, I'm playing Your Turn to Die, which essentially, as I understand it, has multiple endings that could be achieved. I mean, it's not nearly as like, I mean, the production value is not there in terms of like gameplay and stuff for sure, but the writing is there and the way that they take it in such a direction where you can have multiple endings, good, bad, some indifferent or whatnot, or even if it does lead all the way to the same conclusion at the very end, you could play it multiple ways and not get bored of it. But at the same time, you can realize different character stories or different angles for replayability as you go along. I
Oh
really
yeah, for
think that
sure.
they haven't quite explored that kind of territory yet in the Danganronpa universe to where you could have those multiple endings, or you could see one side to a character, like Maki. You'd never figure out exactly what she's about while playing it one way. Then you see like a whole nother side to her or something like that that just makes total sense or something like that if you were to play it another way. It'd
For
be really,
sure.
really cool from a writing standpoint, but
honestly.
yeah, for sure.
I'm my only like that was gonna be idea explored in Distrust. The beta was very well received, and if you've seen the footage, Kyoko is the first victim, at least in that gameplay, and Leon's the first death, and his execution is exactly the same as the original. But the problem is, I think with that one is if they thought it would isolate the audience, it'd be like too particular of an audience. They wanted to expand their audience a little bit more.
Honestly, I hope they don't go with the distrust route because going like full Saw, like it kind of gets rid of a lot of what made the series fun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But in terms of the multiple endings thing, like I'm also in agreement in that. But the way I always envisioned it is actually the blueprint's already sort of there in a different Spike Chunsoft game. Have either of you played AI the Somnium Files?
The name
Oh,
is familiar.
dude, I actually
That
like that game.
that game is fantastic. Honestly, I'd
Oh,
say
dude.
aside from I actually like it better than Danganronpa 1 and 3. But
Which three?
well, both obviously. The only Danganronpa game I prefer over it is 2, but point is like it had its sort of like segments where you're like going into people's minds and
That was
depending on what
brilliant.
decisions you make, it will change what you see and it changed the whole course of the story. My idea was again multiple routes that lead you to different endings and see different sides of characters and the mystery. But like certain things are locked off until you've seen certain other things. So there's like a true ending that you're forced
Right.
can't get to until the end, but also like the divergence would happen at the trial. Like you either follow like one piece of evidence or another, and it would like lead to a different culprit, and that would just change things up so much. The other idea was actually that I had was floated by one of my fans was sort of like the characters are divided into like 2 or 3 teams, and it's against the rules for someone to kill someone that they're on the same team as. They got the idea from a Zero Time Dilemma, and then immediately thought maybe that's a bad idea because it's from Zero Time Dilemma. But I think the idea itself also has promise. The main thing is that I don't want it to just be the same as the first 3, because V3 kind of showed me that like there is only so much you can do with this rule set. You have to make some sort of big, massive change if you don't want it to get stale.
You know what would be interesting? There's a Chinese ripoff game. A fellow Danganronpa YouTuber mentioned. I think as a joke, but he said it was a very interesting motive, or it could be make a very interesting game. It's called the Wolves game. People at the beginning of the round draw different cards. One of them is the wolf, the rest are sheep, and I think the wolf kills the one of the sheeps, and you have to figure out who the wolf is, or like they'll kill someone, or you just have to figure out who the wolf is.
Right. That's another interesting dynamic here and there, as to where you can get a role assigned to you, and it's like, well, your motivation, if you will, is, well, I mean, unless you kill somebody, we will kill you, or we'll kill your family, or however Danganronpa wants to set it up, or something like that. But you could have one character selected by the mastermind to act as the killer, if you will. But there's ways that you can go about writing that in, so to speak, if that makes sense.
It would work. The whole just having the mastermind choose who kills, because I mean, the only time that's really happened in Danganronpa was with Mikon, and that's the most universally hated case in the series.
Yeah, I wasn't too big of a fan of it, but then again, I love Mikon, so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
No,
for
Mikon's
sure.
a good character. Like, honestly, I feel like that's kind of an unpopular take, but I think the only reason people have an issue with her is because of her voice in the later parts of the trial.
My problem with Mikon is more so lore wise, because it's gross what she does, but I think character wise she's really great. I just not a huge fan of that trial.
Wait, what did Mikon do?
Okay, so in the lore, it's pretty much suggested that she has romantic relations with Junko Enoshima, as established in the D3 anime. It's implied that she either found Junko Enoshima's corpse, or I think he probably Makuru Ikosapaka, because her corpse wasn't crushed, and implanted her eggs into herself in order to have Junko's baby.
Okay, so it was because I know. It was sort of mentioned. Yeah, no, because it was kind of mentioned in the trial, but the end trial of Danganronpa 2, but it was kind of lost in translation. Sort of more so said, implied that, oh, they just fucked the corpse, and I'm just like, wait, how can that happen if she was squashed flatter than a pancake? But with Mukuro's body, it makes sense. I didn't. But point is, I knew about what you were saying. I just didn't know that it was confirmed Mikon was the one who did it.
I think, yeah, it was Mikon that had necrophilia. Okay, enough of that topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
honestly, with that whole twist, I think they were just trying too hard to be disturbing, honestly.
Like, Danganronpa has some really dark shit. I think some of those came off as a little bit too edgy, kind of cringe. And I love dark stuff, and I thought it just went too far. It just went kind of disgusting.
A lot of the games in the series, whenever new content would come out, it's almost like okay, how do we push the envelope? How do we make this even more dark or more twisted or something? And it seems like they were all trying to one up each other a little bit as the new games or new content was coming out and stuff like that. So
honestly, the Remnants of Despair and Kotoko's minigame are the only 2 times where it kind of felt like they were going too far.
For sure.
And even then, it wasn't really like, okay, Kotoko's was like legitimately uncomfortable. With the Remnants of Despair, it was more so like almost comical how hard they were trying to be edgy.
Yeah,
to a point, yeah.
And it's never really implied what did they take from. Well, I guess Ibakuru's corpse. Like I know that Izuru Kamakura literally took Junko's consciousness and her teachings with her. Fuyuhiko took her eye. Mikon,
Nagito took her arm.
And then
that messed me up. I was like, holy crap, dude. He had
I-
her arm like sewn on or like stitched, however
My
he did
question
it. And
is
stuff.
how? Because he's not a surgeon.
Well, even if you like told me like Mikan like helped him or something because of like the ultimate nurse thing or something like that, I mean, okay, I can believe that, but that's just so dark that he like cuts his own arm off and freaking takes her arm too. It's like, how? How do you get to
yeah.
that point, that headspace to do that to
I'm
yourself, man?
surprised by like it almost strikes me as they run to move away from this plot point because if you notice with like the ultimate despairs in the Hope arc, the only mutilations you see were the ones that were confirmed. Like Nagito's missing an arm, Fuyuhiko's missing an eye. Those are the only two.
Yeah, and then we know
Like I was expecting it, kind of hoping it for it to be like a lot more gruesome than it was. I almost feel like they kind of cheaped out on that one.
has anyone seen the Danganronpa 2.5 anime? I don't know if anyone's
I
seen
have
that.
not seen it.
I
Okay.
haven't seen it, but if it explains
It
what the
just
despairs do or something, I would have loved to have seen that. That's one
Oh,
missing piece of this puzzle that
it doesn't really explain much. It just explained that Nagito Kameda is the last one to get out of the New World program.
Oh, I
It's
think I did see that actually. Was it just the one episode or something
it was
like
just
that?
the one episode. It's a fascinating one, but I felt like it should have gone with explaining the remnants of despair and who took what from the body.
You know, as weird as this sounds, I would have liked to have seen how the Ultimate Despairs went about wreaking havoc on the worlds and how they all kind of came to be with all of the stuff that, with all the extra stuff, without like showing it, but at least like how they
Explain
like
it.
took over the world, so to speak.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
for
honestly, it is probably because just some of it wouldn't work because it's like, oh yes, Hyoko made the world despair by traditional dancing. How does that work?
Or
It
Yuki
just
put on a rock concert, which was awesome, but we've had a lot of metal shows and stuff.
Maybe her stuff actually had subliminal messages, like so many conspiracy theorists have been claiming. Maybe Terra's food had poison in it. I don't freaking know. Honestly, the thing is, I think the reason they didn't show that is because whatever explanation they came up with would just be too goofy for like the tone they were going for.
Yeah.
Just
Like
imagine
Nagito's ultimate luck would make everyone else very unlucky.
Oh my god.
Just imagine Terra like gives like a bunch of Kool-Aid and it's all junk food that's poisoned. Oh, the despair.
Oh my god.
Oh god, that would do it now.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I would like to thank my co-stars for joining.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining, and we will see you again on this channel, whether I upload a project or something else in the future. Have a good night, have a good day, everyone.
Danganronpa.